Aloha, my name's Chad Weiss, and I'd like to speak to you about an issue that's very dear to my heart. The issue is gun legislation and gun restrictions. Ever since the American Revolutionary War, we in our country have had an issue, the right to bear arms as guaranteed by the Second Amendment versus the responsibility of our government to prevent crime. Obviously, firearms are designed to injure and kill animals and humans. That is their primary purpose and their only purpose. It's hard for the government to allow people to obtain tools and devices that are designed to kill humans, and for the responsibility for them to prevent crime. When Obama was reelected, he proposed, in the aftermath of a very serious school shooting in our country, Obama proposed increased gun legislation. He would like additional background checks for all sales of weapons, including internet sales, a stronger assault weapons ban. He'd like to limit magazines to 10 rounds and ban armor-piercing bullets altogether. The Gallup poll showed that these changes were overwhelmingly popular with Americans. 91% of Americans in the country were in favor of background checks for all sales, and 81% were in favor of increasing funding for mental illness programs in relation to firearms. Even though that the majority of Americans were for these changes, the Senate recently rejected acts to expand background checks, 54 yay, 46 against. Now, you might ask yourself, how is this possible? How is our democracy so broken that 91% of the population wants something and it doesn't get through? By the people, for the people, not so much. The problem is that lobbyists like the NRA are to blame. Our entire democracy is designed to stop what they are doing right now to our country from being ruled from a minority. You know, these special interest groups that have a lot of money shouldn't dictate what the majority of the country wants. And that's exactly what's happening. All but 3 of the 45 senators who shot down gun control measures, pun intended, have received money from firearm lobbyists. So money should not dictate democracy. I intend to limit the power lobbyists have on legislation. The few should not govern the masses. Again, by the people, for the people is the cornerstone of what this country was built on. Now, even with the public support of increased gun legislation, one of the main reasons we're stuck on this gun problem as a country is the Second Amendment. And I, again, would like to delete the Second Amendment from the Constitution, as I feel it's completely irrelevant in this day and age. Originally, the right to bear arms was set into place so that Americans and citizens had an opportunity or a way to protect themselves against oppression, and especially in defense of the state. At the time of the American Revolutionary War, when our country was new and fresh, that was a big concern that the new government that was taking place over the country may abuse its power. We had to have a way to have a check or a balance on this new government. And so our way was enabling our people to arm themselves. And if the new government got out of control, they can create militias and attack and battle the new government, protect the state for the people. The problem is, in this day and age, it's completely irrelevant. You could put all the Glocks and all the assault rifles you like together, put together thousands and thousands of civilians and create a militia, and you won't be able to dent our military. It's by far the most powerful, advanced military this planet's ever seen. We have drones. We can look at your emails. We have satellites running across the world. We can take pictures of you in your backyard. We could send a missile from here to Korea and send it through a window. I mean, really, can we really fight our government? Can we really put together a militia? I don't think we can, and therefore I think that owning a gun isn't right. It should be more like it should be more of a privilege. It should be like driving a car. You should be licensed to have a gun. You should be going through tests to have a gun. It's absolutely not a right. Everybody should not have the right to have a tool that can take the life of another human being. You should have the privilege if you've earned it, and you have to go through a number of a number of qualifications in order to possess a firearm. They're designed to kill humans and animals. So I don't believe it should be a right. In 1996, we also have other countries doing, increasing their gun legislation, so we can actually see if it works or not. We can look at it and, in a control scenario and take what works and what doesn't. We don't have to be the guinea pig in this. In '96, Australia passed increased legislation. Before Australia increased their restrictions on guns, 24% of all Australian homicides were firearm included. So 24% of all murder was due to a firearm. After they did increase gun legislation and made it much more difficult to own a gun, that went from 24% to 11%. Now, I'm not saying we'll ever 100% delete crime from our society. It's just not going to happen. You're never going to get rid of all evil. But does that mean we shouldn't try? I mean, that's a huge percentage. I mean, that's 13%. That's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that won't, lose a daughter, won't lose a son, won't lose a sister because we increase gun legislation. It affects a lot of people. So, again, my name's Chad. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, and those are my thoughts. I'd really like to increase gun legislation, and more importantly than that, I'd like to fix our democracy. The masses believe that we need increased gun legislation, and that's what our country should be following. And thanks again for your time. I appreciate it. Again, my name is Chad Weiss, and have a good night.